Morning family, it's Tasha MAMABEAR prepping. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Happy Monday. I just came from outside. It's not really snowing. It's just kind of a little bit of flurries. It snowed yesterday and we're supposed to get snow for the next couple days, but maybe some coffee and my newest mug. Was looking for something a little different. I was like, you know what, baby, let me go look at the preps and see what deliciousness I might have in there that I don't have in the fridge. And I got me out some chocolate cream. Kind of gives it a I don't know what you would call it. Maybe like a hot chocolatey type of vibe, right? But it's got chocolate and caramel on the thing. We've actually used this before, but yeah, delicious. Anyway, so I want to get into it. I want to get into several things. I've recently, over the weekend, really been thinking about going through my preps, because that's something you should do. It doesn't matter if you've been doing this for years and years and years. Going through your preps should be a normal thing that you do. You should always be trying to organize, trying to make things better, trying to make sure that you're filling your holes, because there's always stuff you're forgetting, right? Even the best of us, there's stuff, I promise you, you would come in here and be like, this is how low you got this going down. So my game plan for the new year is to get a piece of paper, you guys, look at my inventories, reorganize stuff, maybe not reorganize, but stuff that still needed to be organized, right? Going specifically into drawers, that type of thing, and trying to fill holes. And my game plan this year is to, yes, fill holes, but really make sure that I'm hitting my staples. I want to make sure that I have several things when things go left. Whatever happens, right? But if things got even worse, something catastrophic, right? Something that brings people to their knees, and they're not quite sure what to do. I want to have as much stuff on hand that will help me get the job done, get things done, everyday life done, right? And so I have 28 things. I literally just scribbled some stuff out on a paper. But these are things that I find important, very, very important. And when I say important, I mean, I'm thinking some of the stuff is immediate quality of life stuff, but a lot of it is long-term. I'm thinking long-term, if I had to do certain things, you know, to take care of my family, there's certain things that we have to do ourselves, vice going out and getting it or paying for a service or whatever the case may be. What are the things I'd want? And these are the things I'd want. And this is the stuff that we would hoard. This is the stuff we stockpile, we prep. They're must-have items. And we really think long-term in the idea of these. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to try to mark them off so I can make sure I get them all. I'm going to say fishing and hunting gear. And these are in no order, you guys. I just scribbled a bunch on the napkin. Fishing and hunting gear. I think it's super important to make sure that you have the ability to be able to get meat and animals after everything's said and done. Stores close, it's chaos, whatever the case may be, you need meat for your family, and this is one of the ways that you're going to secure it. Having fishing gear, having hunting gear, having even knowledge, the basic knowledge of how to trap, even in your backyard. You know, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how to hunt, I don't know how to fish, I don't know how to do those things. But do you know how many animals come into your backyard, at least for where we live? I mean, there's so many opportunities to get something to eat. Now, I know people are like, well, I'm not eating squirrels or I'm not eating this or that, right? But you might change your mind if stuff goes left, okay? So I think it's super important to hoard and keep and have fishing gear, fishing lure, string. First of all, some of that stuff is versatile, right? You know, fishing string can be used for all types of stuff, okay? So get you a little tackle box, right? Get you some basic hunting gear. If you've never gone hunting, latch onto your friends that have gone hunting, right? Hey, I want to go hunting with you guys next time. What's the bare minimum things I need to buy? What do I need to get? What do I need to do to tag on? Whatever it is, and start learning the basics, right? Even if you don't really do anything, but you're just learning the steps, the processes, the things they do, the things they did when they were actually hunting, the things they did after they hunted, you know, skinning and getting the meat and dividing the meat and doing all of that, okay? That stuff, those skills are really important. Next thing I have is handheld tools. I cannot stress this piece of it, okay? Handheld tools, that's kitchen tools, okay? Handheld kitchen tools. Everything is so electric, right? But if we lose power, there's a lot of people that are dead in the water as far as being able to use the things they have, right? So kitchen tools you're thinking about your garden tools, you're thinking about your tools that replace your tools that are electric in your garage, right? Your handheld working tools. Super important, okay? Think of something so simple like, okay, you have a gas ran chainsaw, right? And think long term. How would you cut down trees, if you didn't have anything that was ran by gas or electric, right? You've got to have these handheld things. How would you chop wood, right? Do you have an axe? And the thing is if people, people might have a fireplace and have a old wood stove in their home, but because they're on electricity, they just don't really think about it. They don't think about stockpiling firewood. They don't think about making sure you have various axes and different things to help you chop wood. You just don't think about it because you don't use that piece of your home, okay? But if emergency crisis happens, something happens, and all of a sudden you find yourself needing to use that, but then you do not even have the resources needed for it, down to the wood that you need to burn in it, let alone the tools that are needed to maybe chop it down or chop a tree or actually go out and resource the wood yourself, right? So tools, cannot stress enough. Garden tools, workshop tools, fix-it man tools, your kitchen tools. There's just a lot of things that are ran on power, and you want to go through and think about the things, okay, if I didn't have power, what's the tool that replaces this, okay? Next thing I have is fire starting gear. Now this could be huge. I mean, this could be literally, your different fire starting materials. This could be flint. This could be matches. This could be lighters. Just everything that it takes to start a fire, getting those materials. Basically, you're getting whatever you would want to make your quality of life better. If you were building a fire in a perfect world, what are the things that you would want, right, to help assist you to do that, okay? And, a lot of people, you're not going to survive if you don't know how to do it without a lighter or whatever. I would agree to an extent that, yes, long-term, you need to know the basic skills of how to actually start a fire without certain things, maybe without a lighter, without conventional stuff. But it starts with having all that stuff. For me, I like to have the skill set, but I also like to have options, right? I don't want to spend half a day trying to light a fire when I can with some sticks, when I can take a lighter and light it, right? But the skill set is important. So I do understand that part of it, okay? Next thing on my list, I have batteries. Again, not a long-term thing to have, but absolutely a must-have for emergency preparedness to have that stuff for your flashlights, for your lanterns, for your various things, okay? I don't know about you, but we go through batteries quite a bit. Recharging batteries are the way to go. But batteries, I cannot stress it, and making sure that you actually have the size needed for different things. And don't just stockpile stuff for the average sizes for, let's say, lanterns and flashlights. Think about the other things in your house, right? Think about watches that need batteries replaced. I know that doesn't go out often, but in a grid down situation, a long-term situation where you're not able to just go out and get stuff anymore, supplies, break a spot, you can't just order that stuff on Amazon. Having that extra batch battery, or the extra car fob battery, or extra batteries for whatever various things, a lot of people think about crisis and they're like, well, you're talking about end of the world stuff, but no, I'm really talking about everything. Yes, that's the extreme, an EMP hits, but I'm really talking about everyday life. If we have interruptions in the supply chain, whether that comes from some sort of strike, whether that comes from people being fired, whether that comes from businesses closing, whatever that is the result of that, or the reason why it happens, you should be preparing for the time when you can't just go to Amazon and buy something, or you can't just go to the store and it's readily on the shelf. Okay, we're getting to a point where manufacturers, the folks that make this stuff, are pulling back on the amount of stuff they make, the types of stuff they make. And so if there's stuff you're trying to get, you need to get those oddball things that are needed. And batteries are kind of have some outlier batteries that aren't needed all the time, that people don't think about until you need it, and then you're like, oh, I gotta go get this special battery. Okay, next thing I have on here is rice. Now, baby, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that water, food, and meds is a must. Like, that's where you start, that's what you need. But I have rice on here specifically. I don't have very much food things on here, period. Okay. But rice, you know, when you think about staples, if I think about one staple that I want, it's rice, right? I can do so much with rice. It's filling. My family loves it. You know, multiple ways to cook it. I just absolutely love rice. And so it made the list of stuff that absolutely needs to be hoarded and actually needs to be stockpiled. And it's a constant thing. Okay. Next thing I have is salt. That's another thing. Salt is just good because if you're preserving food at all, salt is an item that is in a lot of those things. If you're making stuff, making foods, salt is needed. Salt is needed because we need salt in our body. A lot of stuff that we buy has preservatives and salt in it, which is needed. But just for the fact of, yes, eating it and cooking, but preserving is the huge reason why I really think about the salt that I'm preserving, or that I'm, you know, stockpiling. And it's very important to stockpile. Huge bartering item, huge bartering item as well. But salt is a no-brainer. Next thing I have for hoarding is cash. Now, baby, I've done a video or two talking about money. Get your money out of the bank. I'm not saying take all your money out of the bank, but I'm saying, baby, you better be smart about your cash money and be having some money set aside. Just call it an emergency fund, call it whatever you want, but you should be pulling out cash and doing that. Another thing is being low-key gray men, right? There's so much tracking in our world as far as tracking what we do, tracking what we buy, tracking what we look at, and, you know, cash and pulling out cash and buying things and teaching yourself to buy things with cash is helpful because it helps you stay under the radar a little bit with everything. They're watching our every single move of everything we're doing, right? And so you get a little bit of privacy when you have cash and you're shopping with cash in that way. Okay, so just cash, I can't stress enough. Other forms of money is fine too. Assets, hard assets is the name of the game right now. What are the hard assets that you have? Your home, your car, hard assets. That food, water, meds, that's an asset, baby. Okay, that is important. That is money. That is life. And so that's just as important. But having, whether it's silver, gold, whatever you're into, but having that in a different way than just the bank alone. Okay. I'm not saying don't do the bank, but don't do the bank and let that be your only options. Next thing I have is lamp oil. So again, this is more of a long-term thing because lamps are not the lamps that we're pulling out when we just have a basic, you know, blackout. We have a basic, hey, there's no power. Even if that's a couple weeks long, we're just not pulling out lamps. Well, I shouldn't say pulling out. They're already staged, but we're not utilizing those yet. That layer is more of a long-term layer, right? That is for long-term survival, for lighting options later, right? That's like EMP or long term, something happens and knocks stuff out for, you know, I mean, even if our grid got attacked, like it's been getting attacked and they were successful in certain stuff, the lamp oils is what, you know, something takes us to our knees, EMP, a long-term no power situation. That's when we use that until we stockpile lamp oil so that we're ready for that day when that becomes an everyday thing for us. Next thing I have on here is any kind of camping gear. You know, a lot of times you'll hear preppers say when you're new, camping gear is kind of where you start. I would not necessarily say that. I would say water, food, meds, but I understand the mentality of camping gear and it's important. If you can have camping gear, you have a tent, you have sleeping bags, you have, you know, your camp stove, your camping, you know, the dishware, right? The utensils and the cookware, right? You have all those things. You have a lot of things to help you live off grid. You have big coolers, that type of thing. You have a lot of the items that is needed to kind of live off grid and live away from home. That's the point of camping, right? To be able to have shelter and eat and all those good things, right? And so I do understand and like the concept of camping gear. And so I absolutely think that you should hoard that stuff. You should be making sure you guys have sleeping bags, tents, you know, various ways to cook, right? So regular camp stove, there's 1,001 different types of stoves that you can buy, but camp gear is important. Right behind that, another thing, a gear, I guess I could say, is preservation. Anything preservation, right? all the extra things. You can get the, preservation items like HOARD canners, right? I just was saying the other day, I need another canner. I don't have a backup canner. I need a backup canner. I have a couple smaller low-level dehydrators, but to me, I need an upscale on my hydration. So I can, so that I can dehydrate higher quality at a higher quality, right? Or I can do more because now I have several, right? The vac sealer, all the different things, the bags for that, the Mylar bags, the oxygen absorbers, anything that has to do with preservation, hoard it, keep it. That stuff is going to go super fast. This is all stuff that goes super fast when something chaotic happens and people start panic buying. This is the items that people are going to be going after. Another thing I have is propane. Really, it's any kind of fuels, but so many things take propane. I have cookware that takes, or cook stove that takes butane and propane. So I stockpile both of those. Having propane and a bunch of the bigger ones for your barbecuer. Just think fuel in general, but propane is a big one that's you can easily buy, easily store it. I just love propane, okay? The next thing I have is Epsom salt. Again, Epsom salt has so many. I mentioned this on a video the other day. Epsom salt has so many uses, even from gardening to muscle soreness. It's just an amazing product. I absolutely love it, and I hoard the crap out of it. Okay. Next thing I have is coffee or teas. I think that coffees or teas. Oh, see, I almost marked out a different one. Coffees, teas, super important. I just almost cannot go to the store without getting a tea or coffee, either one. I think we need to have both. Teas are super important for when people are sick, and just medicinally being able to just add something to it and make a tea, amazing. Need to have it. It's nice to have a little base tea bag. Even for holistic stuff, not necessarily needed when you really get full bore into stuff, but still, I think teas and coffees, huge for stockpiling. Stockpiling creamers, this kind, right? If you're the creamer, if you add creamer, but at the end of the day, if I had to, there's a lot of other ways to flavor your coffee, and I would do so, whatever it took, right? Next thing I have on here is seeds. Seeds. The one thing I want to say about seeds is, yes, you want, your non-GMO, you want your heirloom seeds. You want seeds, and then you want to get your microgreen seeds, and you just keep getting them. And then additionally, you need to start learning the skill set, right? Keeping your seeds, growing from the seeds from the food you're already growing now and or buying now, but you need to start seeing how and learning how to get those seeds from the food that you're growing for the day. Like, remember, we talk about now, but we talk about long-term also. Next thing I have is duct tape. I think we can't go wrong with duct tape. I can't tell you the times and all the amount of ways we use duct tape. I love duct tape. It's so strong. It's so versatile. And it's just absolutely, it's a number one must-have prep, but I hoard it. I want to have duct tape. I need it for so many things. I need it for preparedness in general, right? Wrapping up windows, fixing a roof, putting a tarp down. Like, there's so many reasons to use duct tape. And so it's a must. Next thing I have is 5-gallon buckets. Now, people might be like, well, hoard those. I mean, you can have too many. Yeah, of course, you can have too many. But there's so many processes and so many ways to use 5-gallon buckets. Of all the buckets I've ever bought, I maybe have 1 or 2 extra buckets that are not being used at this time right now. Every single other bucket that we've used is being used for something, whether it's food, whether it's to collect water, whether it's to feed our chickens, right, and make feeders, like whatever it is. We have a ton of buckets. We have 3.5 gallon and we have 5, and we use them all the time. Or whether it's growing in them, it doesn't matter. I have so many buckets and they always get used. Okay. Next thing I have is baking soda. This is kind of like the Epsom salt. It's just something that is a no-brainer to have in your house all the time. Has so many uses, and so we stockpile the crap out of it. Next thing I have is liquor. Now, whether you drink liquor or not, it really doesn't matter. This is an important prep, and it's something that must be hoarded. 1, it's a huge bartering item. 2, it's a huge preservation item, medicinal property item. If you're into tinctures and different holistic stuff, it's a must-have, okay? It's a must-have for your medical preps, okay? I think that it's just super, super important. Obviously, if you drink it as well, okay, but cooking with it and preserving with it, medicinal uses, medical uses, there's just a lot of reasons. And hard liquor does not expire. And so it's one of those preps that, because it doesn't go bad too, it's an amazing thing to have on your shelf. Okay, so even if you don't drink, unless you have, obviously, if you have a problem, you've been fighting years, alcohol abuse, whatever the case may be, you're fighting that battle. I'm obviously not advocating that you go and do this, like you must have it. But what I'm telling you though is, don't just slide over it because you do not drink, right? Or you don't believe in drinking, because it has a lot of other very, very useful ways of using it, okay? Next thing I have for hoarding is blankets. Do not sleep on this. Never, never, never do I throw out a blanket unless it's just totally, totally trashed, okay? Like cannot be washed, totally, whatever, cannot be sewn up, cannot be fixed. Blankets, wool blankets, throws, I don't care what it is, you keep it. If you're not using it, then wash it, fold it up, put it in one of those bags and pull out all the air and keep it that way. Put it in some totes. Blankets. Like, I hope you're not the one that like, okay, I got a new bedroom set for my bed, throw that one out and here's the new. No, you put that set to the side, you wash it up and you store it and you keep that blanket. Blankets. And if you do not have kind of a stockpile of blankets right now, start buying them. Figure out how you work that into your budget and start buying them. And you can buy them at garage sales, you can buy them at thrift stores, you can buy them at cheaper stores, even Walmart, right? From time to time, just go get you a blanket from them. Buy blankets when they're, only on Black Friday and Christmas sales and the different sales, and go out and get those types of things, right? But blankets. Next thing I have is jars and the lids. This could be canning jars as well, but remember I just said preservation items. With this one, I'm thinking more of jars. Like, do not throw a jar out. Do not throw a container out. You should be keeping all that stuff and stockpiling that stuff. Little containers that food comes in, keep that. Even if it's just the plastic Tupperware kind, especially if it's like a airtight type container, 100% keep it. Jars, glass jars, all sizes, especially if they have a lid, keep them. Just such good thing to have to put food in to make it last. Okay, so even if you're not sucking the air out, taking the air out, putting an oxygen absorber in there, just the mere fact of putting food in airtight containers will make that food last much longer. So be keeping that stuff, don't be throwing it out. Next thing I have is gloves. So again, we go through gloves like crazy. This is gardening gloves. This is work gloves. This is gloves to keep you warm. Gloves. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. You can't have too many. You need to hoard those. You need to make sure that you have the various types of gloves for different projects, right? We had a little section where we had some blackberry bushes coming in through the fence from the neighbors, and we're like, we needed certain gloves to be able to really work with it and get that stuff out of there. Next thing I have is ammo. No brainer. Gotta get it, especially if you have your pews. You've got to have that stuff. Again, huge bartering item, not probably something I would be bartering, but must have. Next thing I have is vitamins. Now I have this separate from medical because the vitamins by themselves, I think, need to have a thought process of conscious effort to take a look at what vitamins you want in your stockpile and be making it a conscious effort to stockpile those, to actually get those over and over. And you could even, you can slide this out really far. I don't think we have tons and tons of years to stockpile meds and vitamins. I think this stuff is going to be regulated within a couple years because there's such a demand, but there's such a shortage in it. I think we are going to move and find ourselves in a situation where over-the-counter stuff, easily stuff to get now, because it's shortages and we can't get it, it's going to be moved into regulation so that they can regulate it and they can ensure that they have a certain supply of it, okay? And then they can, you have to go to the doctor to be able to get stuff. So next thing I have, just talked about it, medical meds and medical supplies. I have this together. That's the bandages, that's the everything, right? All the creams and different things you need. Talked about this the other day. But everything, all the over-counter meds that you can get your antibiotic kits. If you have not, use the description box below to figure out and get your antibiotics. If you can't afford them right now, get it on your budget. Be thinking long-term. when you're going to be able to get that so that you can get that on your shelves. That is a very important thing. That is going to be something that we're going to deal with. Again, like I said, the medical stuff, this stuff is going to hurt us, and it's already hurting families, but it's going to hurt us in over this next year, 2 years, okay? Hurt you, because you're going to go through things and go to the doctor and maybe not be able to get an antibiotic, or maybe not be able to get the kind that you want, or whatever the case may be. So super important to get your antibiotics, super important to get your meds, your over-the-counter meds, and your medical supplies, the basics, a tourniquet, the basic things you need. You've got to get that stuff and grow upon it. Get you a little kit so you can kind of see physically what goes into a kit, what type of things you need, and then the things in there that you use all the time, like alcohol pad or whatever, then you buy a box of that, okay, from Amazon or wherever, and then you buy a box of this, and then you buy a box of this, and you just keep adding to the stockpile of that stuff. Next thing I have is yeast. Okay, super important, because obviously bread is going to be an important thing. I love that, because a lot of my cooking, especially off-grid cooking, is stews and soups, and I like to be able to throw crackers or a bread with that, okay? And so yeast is super important. You think about staples, the basics that you need to be able to make the basics things. Well, bread for me is going to be a huge staple, and having the ability to make that, and so yeast is on my list, okay? And then next thing I have, this might be the last one. Nope, it's not the last one. I have cold weather gear. I think we talked a little bit about gloves, but we're more work gloves and garden gloves and different gloves for working. But this is more cold weather gear. Lots of flannels, thick flannels, jackets, gloves, heating, your heating pads, your heating blankets, the gear for socks, long socks, wool socks, sweatpants, sweatshirts, hoodies, beanies, all of that stuff, right? Your earmuffs, your ear bands to keep your face and your ears warm. All of those things, okay? Get those things and stockpile them. And then the last thing I have is, again, probably one of the most important things on the list, and that's books. Cannot stress books, manuals, anything that teaches you how to do something. This could be about gardening. This could be cooking. This could be, what else do I have books on? This could be on medical books, holistic books. This could be on preparedness books. This could be on hunting books, foraging books. So many things, okay? How to build things, basic, woodworking book. But it's very, very important to have this knowledge and have it in a physical form in a book in front of you, not downloaded. A lot of people are like, well, I've downloaded stuff and I have a way to get it, and that's great. If you feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. I'm not here to tell you how to do this, but what I'm telling you is, please do not sleep on the importance of a book, okay? A physical book that you can open, okay? And research stuff and learn stuff, and teach yourself stuff that's just not in your brain yet, right? Super, super important. So that's my list, you guys. That's my list of 28 items that I think are must-have hoarding type stuff. And, I don't really like the word hoarding, because preppers get a bad rep with, oh, you guys are hoarding, you're hoarding. No, we buy things little by little. Like, no, by no means am I telling you to go out and get 1,000 pairs of gloves, right? I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you that these things are important. And when you're going to the store and you have your budget of preparedness items that you want, this is important stuff. And this is also stuff that's going to go fast. This stuff's going to be flying off the shelves when an emergency crisis happens, right? When a natural disaster happens, what happens? The shelves get cleared. Not just that town, all the towns around it. And it's no different. All that it matters is how big is the crisis that happens, and your ability of getting things later, and how long does the crisis last, and what do you need to get on your shelf to be able to take care of you and your family. So I hope you guys stay well. Get your coffee, get your drink. I hope you guys had a good time today listening to the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow on the next video. Take care. Bye.